This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 114. If you've ever wondered how long changing your habits is going to take, I've got some answers for you. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are going to talk about a common question that comes up when you're changing your habits. So this question comes up repeatedly from my clients, whether they're looking to lose weight, establish exercise, stop emotional eating, or even just think differently. So really, it comes up whenever my clients struggle with changing their habits. And the question has come up often enough, and I've talked through it with enough clients, that I wanted to bring it to the podcast because I'm guessing that this question has come up for you too. And I'm zoning in on this question specifically because it is a doozy, okay? This is not how many calories do I need, or how much protein should I eat, or what are the best exercises to build your booty, okay? We are going way beyond those type of questions, and I'm going to try to give you some perspective on one of the harder, bigger questions that my clients face when they do the work of changing their lives. And that question is, how long is this going to take? I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked that question, and I think it's time to dive into it. And the reason I'm bringing up this question in particular is because it represents a pattern of thinking that can totally derail you. So to be clear, there is nothing wrong with asking this question. But as we get into it, I think you'll see how it may not be helping you. So today, I'm going to unpack what most often is behind this question. And then I'm going to try to help you reframe the idea of how long is this going to take with some other thoughts that I believe will move you forward instead of spinning in circles wondering what's taking so long. So I want to help you reframe, all right? And truthfully, that's part of my job. Part of my work as a coach is to help you see things differently. That's the whole idea, right? Sometimes when you get so stuck in certain patterns of thinking, it gets hard to see anything other than what you believe to be the truth. But that's where I can help you, because here's something important to consider. Your truth is not the same as the truth, right? Your truth is not the truth. And this is a hard one, but I think that's a really great thing to remember. So let me explain what I mean by this. Sometimes we carry long-held beliefs about ourselves that have been firmly implanted for so long that we just take them as straight-up fact. Often, we stop questioning those sentences altogether because we just accept them as truth. So as an example, one of the most common things I hear, I can't keep the weight off once I lose it. And there are many others. I'm not an athlete. There's no way I can exercise in the morning. I can't ask my family for time to exercise. I can't leave work at work. These are sentences I often hear from clients when I first start working with them. But recognize that these sentences are your opinion. And while those sentences may feel like your truth, know that they are not the absolute truth. It is possible for you to keep weight off once you lose it. You can become an athlete. You can exercise in the morning, and you can ask your family for time to exercise, okay? The beliefs that you've decided about yourself do not have to be absolute, especially if the decisions you've made about yourself are not helping you move forward. So if you're not doing it already, start paying attention to the stories and pay attention to the sentences that you tell yourself. What are you saying to yourself? What truths have you decided on for yourself that are keeping you stuck at the same weight or in the same habits or in the same schedule? And more importantly, do you have to keep believing those sentences? No. And to be clear, my job is not to change your opinion. As your coach, my job and my goal is not to change your opinion or have you see it my way. Because I don't have your answers. You do. But that being said, my job is not to believe that what you say about yourself is the absolute truth. Can you see that? I don't have to believe everything that you believe about yourself, especially if what you're saying and what you believe about yourself is keeping you totally stuck. So instead, my job is to help you see that there may be more than one way of looking at your life. I want to help you see that there may be something else to believe about yourself that moves you forward. And ultimately, you get to choose what you practice believing to be true about you. And that's where all of the growth is, okay? So to put it very simply, if you are so willing as to accept that there might just be another story to tell yourself about your life, that's when things start to open up. if you are even the tiniest bit open to the idea that there might be a different story and a different outcome available to you, then we're getting somewhere. So let's go. I'm going to give you some ideas to consider today that might cause you to reconsider the story you tell yourself as you do the work of changing your habits. If you have found yourself getting frustrated or irritated or impatient as you try to change your habits, and especially if you have asked yourself, how long is this going to take? Keep listening. I'm going to challenge you to think about this question differently. I'm going to unpack some of the underlying questions beneath this question, because what I have found over and over again is that asking, how long is this going to take? Most often, it's a surface level question. It's surface level. But if we keep going, and if we don't just stop there and get wrapped up in how much time your change is taking, most often we'll get to what's really going on underneath it. All right, so let's go. So first, if you have ever asked yourself the question, how long is this going to take? Please know that you are not alone. I said it earlier, but it is hands down the most common question that comes up in coaching sessions with my clients. And it makes total sense. If you're going to all the trouble of changing the way you eat, or if you're going to all the trouble of writing a meal plan and self-monitoring, or if you're going to all the trouble of creating an exercise plan, it makes sense that you would want to know how long it's going to take to see results, right? And most of us, understandably, want to see results ASAP. And the idea that you should see results fast has been ingrained in us and is totally normal. In general, we want what we want, and we want it as soon as possible, especially when it comes to losing weight. And so where does that come from? Well, first, there is this misleading notion that it should only take 21 days to form a habit. So do you know where this comes from? This is totally fascinating. The whole 21 days to a habit was propagated by a book written in 1960. It was called Psycho-Cybernetics. The book was written by a plastic surgeon. His name was Maxwell Maltz. And in this book, the author observed that it took his patients approximately 21 days to get used to their new features after having plastic surgery. So as an example, if you got a new nose, it took you about 3 weeks or 21 days to get acclimated to your new look and your new nose. And then somehow, with time and repetition, this translated to 21 days to form a new habit. But there is no science to this whatsoever. And there's other research that suggests it takes anywhere from 66 to over 250 days to form a habit. And that's a pretty wide range with no one reputable answer. So what this all adds up to is that we just do not know with absolute certainty how long it is going to take you to lose weight or form any habit. It is really hard to project a time or a date at which you will arrive at weight loss and a time at which eating healthy is a full-on habit for you. I can't give you a date at which exercise becomes an automatic no-brainer habit. We just don't know how long any of this is going to take. And I would definitely not tell you that you're going to make anything a habit in 21 days. But beyond this, and beyond the perceived notion that habits happen in a certain number of days, there's something else much deeper that drives the question of how long will this take? There is something else driving that urgency. So what is it? Well, what I find most commonly is that the urgency comes from the belief and the desire that your life will be better and you will be happier once you arrive at your goal. Some of you have gotten trapped into the idea that you'll be happier once you lose the weight, that you'll be happier and life will be better when you're thinner, that you will be happier once you've got a shoulder cap and a firm booty. But if you're not happy now, I can almost certainly guarantee that you're not going to be happy just because you've lost weight or gotten muscular. I have seen this trap so many times for so many clients, and I feel the need to pull it apart here. Your problems do not go away once you're thinner. You do not suddenly get rid of your perfectionism, your imposter syndrome, your feelings of insufficiency, your need for external validation, or your fear of other people's opinions of you just because you've lost weight. The underlying junk that every single one of us has, that's your story or your limiting beliefs. That doesn't just go away because you weigh less than you did before. Instead, if you haven't done your mind work and if you haven't worked on accepting yourself as you are first, then the same limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns that you're trying to escape will still most definitely be there, but they'll just be hanging out in a smaller body. So I read this somewhere and I absolutely believe it to be true and I want to share it. And what I read is this: if your goal starts with, I'll be happier when, it's not a goal, it's a trap. And I 100% agree. Thin does not equal happy. Tone does not equal happy. Strong does not equal happy. Size 4 does not equal happy. And the problem is when you hold on to the idea that your happiness lies in what the scale says, or what you look like, or what your pant size says, or how much muscle you see when you look in the mirror, but you're not focusing on your inner work and you're not focusing on the brain work that is needed to accept yourself, then you're not going to be happy because it will never be enough. You will never be satisfied. No amount of weight loss will fix the negative thoughts that you have about yourself. It doesn't work that way. The scale cannot fix your negative thought patterns, okay? The scale is not going to be the tool that helps you like yourself. That I can promise. And I will keep bringing this up as often as I need. And I will keep saying it in as many ways as I can think of because I keep running into it over and over again. Too many of you think that if you just hurry up and lose the weight, then you'll go to work and work on liking yourself in that order. It's hurry up and push and push and push to lose the weight, and then you'll get to the mindset. But it really doesn't work that way. I have yet to see a client succeed by taking this approach. And here's why. When you're in a hurry to lose the weight, and when you think that weight loss will make your life happier, the scale becomes your blind spot. You become so zoned in on doing whatever you have to do to lose the weight that you start to take on extreme and unsustainable methods to do it. You give up all the foods you love. You try to get by eating as little calories as possible. And meanwhile, you're hangry and miserable. And when you do things that are extreme in order to lose weight, you can't keep it up. And then when it becomes unsustainable and you can't lose the weight, you give up. And that leads you to have even more negative thoughts about yourself until you start the process all over again. All under the guise of, if I can just lose the weight, then I'll like myself more. Then I can work on accepting myself. It is an ugly cycle that I have seen repeated over and over again, and it gets you nowhere. And if you're hearing this, and if your inclination is to roll your eyes and tune out, I would encourage you to stop for a second and ask if this applies to you. So I'm making a big, hairy deal out of this point with good reason. It's a pattern I see come up all the time, and it's fairly easy to pick up because I've been there myself. You tell yourself, I just need to get things under control. I just need to get the scale down. I just need to get to the next size. I just need to fit into this outfit and look this certain way. And then I will do the work. And then I will work on liking myself more. But that's skipping the important step of self-compassion. So I can admit it because I know better now, but I didn't feel like self-compassion applied to me. I thought it was being soft. I thought it was wimpy. I thought it was weak. Even that word, self-compassion, admittedly, it gave me the heebie-jeebies. And in full transparency, I'm still doing the work of tolerating self-compassion because I thought I was above it. I thought I'm too strong. I'm too tough. I'm too hardened to practice self-compassion. I thought self-compassion was for people who called their friends love and talked in generalities about inner wisdom and manifestation. And I didn't think it applied to me. And if anyone out there listening can relate, I get you. So let me make it loud and clear. Self-compassion applies to you too. It applies to you, okay? No one is above it. No one is too tough or too sarcastic or too strong to practice self-compassion. No one is exempt from it, okay? And so why does this matter? Well, it matters because the more you practice self-compassion, the more kind you will be to yourself when you mess up. And that's exactly what creating new habits is. It's trying and messing up and doing it over and over again until it becomes a new habit. So the more you practice self-compassion, the more you will be willing to pursue your goals and not give up when you do make mistakes. Okay? So do you see this connection? It is so essential and it all rolls together. You practice self-compassion so that you're kind to yourself as you mess up on the way to becoming your next best version. Because in contrast, when you are not kind to yourself, that is when you throw in the towel. That's when you beat yourself up and tell yourself that change is not possible for you. That is when you talk yourself down to the point of giving up. But when you practice self-compassion, you recognize that mess-ups are common, they happen to everyone, including you, and they are not a reason to stop. So what this means is that you do the work of being kind to yourself while you do the work of changing your habits. It happens simultaneously. So please, please, please understand that things do not suddenly get better just because you lose weight or have muscle. You do not wake up one day, look in the mirror or step on the scale and say, all right, I'm happier now. I'm good. Now I like myself. Now I'll be nicer to myself because I weigh in the 140s. Okay? The scale is not going to give that to you. The mirror is not going to give that to you. Your in-body scale or your body composition tracker is also not going to give that to you. You have to be the one to make yourself happy. You have to be the one to accept yourself. And that happens over time by doing the work of practicing self-acceptance, practicing self-validation, and by practicing self-compassion. I cannot stress enough how important this is. And this is not fuzzy. You can't skip over this. Okay? All right. And to piggyback off what we were just talking about, just as I said that there is no arriving at happy, you also do not arrive at done. So I've said it before, but it bears repeating. When we're talking about losing weight or changing your physique or changing any habit, really, you're never really done, right? And part of the reason that asking, how long is this going to take, is not helping you is that you're not seeing these changes as lifelong. So to put this very bluntly, in order to change your life, change your weight, or change your habits, there is no going back. There is no finish line. There is no done. There is no point at which you arrive and then you're done. So the real answer to how long is this going to take, the real answer is the rest of your life. Because whatever you did to lose the weight, or whatever you did to put your exercise routine in motion or build muscle, whatever you did, those are the same habits that you'll need to keep up if you want to maintain your weight loss, maintain your fitness, or maintain your physique. Whatever you did to get there is what you'll need to do to stay there. You can't arrive at your goal weight and stop all the things you were doing that got you to that goal in the first place. So you're never really done. So instead of getting caught up in how long your weight loss is taking, what if you thought of the whole process as establishing a new baseline for yourself? A baseline that you will carry out for the rest of your life. I don't know about you, but to me, that feels very different. When I think of the question, how long is this going to take? I think of a pursuit with an endpoint or a finish line. But this is your life and your habits that we're talking about here, and there is no finish line. So when I think of establishing a new baseline, though, that's different. That is your new normal. And a baseline is something that you strive to uphold every day for the rest of your life. So time and how long things are taking really does become irrelevant because it doesn't matter. If you are truly in this for the long haul, this is your life we're talking about. And what that means is that the habits you're implementing are meant to be lifelong. You are making changes that are designed to be in place for the rest of your life. There's no going back. So it's not so much about being done, which implies that you don't have to do the work anymore, but rather finding a baseline of habits that you can keep up so it becomes your new normal for the rest of your life. So this is where adjusting your mindset is essential if you want your habits to remain intact and become your new lifestyle. You can't create a new set of habits and you don't create a new lifestyle with an old limiting mindset. And that's why trying to hurry up and lose the weight without working on your mindset and your self-talk in the process just does not work. Everything needs to match up. All right? Okay, so another reason you may feel compelled to ask, how long is this going to take, is if you've been stuck in a place of consuming information or programs or systems or even coaching, but you haven't been applying it. So you may be very intent on losing weight. It may be something that consumes a lot of space in your brain. And as a result, you may be doing a boatload of learning. Maybe you read all kinds of books or scour social media or listen to podcasts like this one. So maybe you consume loads of information about weight loss or exercise or habit change. And because of the amount of information you're consuming, it feels like you're in a weight loss mode. It feels like there's a lot of mental energy being expended around weight loss and exercise and habits. But what I have found is that there's an enormous difference between learning information or consuming or thinking about things versus actually applying the information that you learn and trying something. Intellectualizing what it takes to create a habit or intellectualizing what it actually takes to sit with an urge and allow it to pass, that's one thing. You can think about it all you want, but the real work happens when you actually apply it. The real work happens when you're confronted with an overwhelming urge to go to the pantry and stuff yourself with chips for no other reason than you're stressed, and then you put the tools in place to walk away. The real work happens when you observe your justifications about how you've earned that bowl of ice cream and practice debating those justifications instead of accepting them as fact. The real work happens when you process your emotion instead of eating it. And if you're not doing this, if you're not taking the information you consume and going the extra step to apply it, then yes, it's going to feel like it's taking forever to lose weight or change your habits. And I've seen this happen countless times. I've had clients who have come to me after trying multiple programs and systems or after working with other coaches, and they're exhausted mentally and emotionally and physically from cyclic weight loss. And when we get into it, it's often because there has been a lot of consuming without applying. So you have a lot of mental energy expended around weight loss or habit change, but you don't have much to show for it because you haven't actually applied what you've learned enough to know if it's working. And that's just it, okay? Here's what I want to offer you if you find yourself getting caught up and wondering, how long is this going to take? So whenever you feel frustrated or impatient and you're wondering how long it's going to take, ask yourself this question instead. How consistent do I need to be? Really? That's it. Ask yourself how consistent you need to be. That is your key reframe right there. Because losing weight or establishing a regular exercise routine or changing any habit is really only going to happen when you practice consistency. Okay? I have not seen anyone be successful at changing her life or her habits without consistency. And as a reminder of what consistency actually is. So consistency is made up of 3 things, all right? There's the behavior. If you want something to become a habit, you have to do it. You actually have to do the behavior. That is the first and essential piece. If you want to stop overeating, you have to actually practice not overeating. The second piece is repetition, okay? You have to do the behavior, and then you have to repeat the behavior. And that just means that you do the behavior over and over again. And notice I'm not saying 100% here. You do not have to do the behavior perfectly, and you don't have to get a 100% in order to be consistent. You just have to keep showing up and doing the behavior repeatedly. And the third piece is frequency. And that means that you repeat the behavior enough within a meaningful time frame so that it becomes habit. So this does not necessarily mean 21 days. Although I guess now that I think about it, if you did the behavior and repeated it for 21 straight days, maybe that's enough to become habit. But I don't know your unique needs. Everyone's going to be different. And the point is, the habit needs to be repeated with enough frequency that it starts to become automatic, so that it becomes your new normal or your new baseline. So I use this example all the time. If you're trying to establish the habit of exercise and you exercise 3 times one week, 0 times the next week, and then 2 times the next week and 1 time the next, you may be wondering, where are my results? You may find yourself asking, how long is it going to take for me to look muscular or for me to lift more weight? But this isn't consistency. So you're doing the behavior and you're repeating it, but you're not repeating it with enough frequency to get the result you want. And you can take what I just said about exercise and replace it with following your meal plan if your goal is to lose weight. So following your plan 3 times one week, 0 times the next week, 2 times the next week, and 1 time in the next. Okay, so that's 4 weeks that have gone by, but you've only followed your plan 6 times in 28 days. So that is not consistency, and that's not going to get you where you want to go. But it may feel like you've been at it for a long time. It's been 4 weeks, right? But in that time frame, you haven't followed your plan enough for it to be meaningful or for the plan to give you any results. And that's when you may find yourself asking, how long is this going to take? So again, if you feel like changing your weight or seeing results or changing your habits is taking a long time, I would come back to this and I would ask yourself how consistent you've been. And if you haven't been consistent, then you've got an answer. And if you find that you haven't been consistent, don't stop there. Because the next step is to ask yourself why you haven't been consistent and see what comes up for you. Is there an urgency underlying your desire to hurry up and be there already? Are you operating under the assumption that you'll be happier once you've lost the weight? And as a result, are you skipping over the important work of self-acceptance and self-compassion? Are you looking at your changes as lifelong? Or are you seeing them as a means to an end where there's a time at which you arrive at done? Are you consuming various resources like books, social media, podcasts, influencers, coaching, or other programs, but not applying what you're consuming with enough regularity to move the needle? And those are just some of the big ones. Those are the things that have come up most often, both in my own experience and what I've observed helping tons of clients answer this very question. And what I want to assure you is that it is only natural to feel impatient. It is totally natural to wonder how long it will take to see results. And while it's normal to feel a sense of urgency or even to feel impatient, I would simply ask yourself how getting bogged down with how long it's taking, I would ask how that's helping you move forward. Because to be perfectly honest, I can't think of a single time that asking, how long is this going to take, has been helpful to me personally or to any of my clients. That question really does not move you forward. However, what that question does do is open up the conversation and provide an opportunity to do some digging. It allows for an even better conversation to see what's underneath it. So if you're willing to go deeper and ask what's underneath that question, I think you'll find your next step, because it's not about pushing harder and faster to hurry up and get there. Instead, it's about practicing self-compassion right here and now, even if you're not where you want to be from a weight loss or physique perspective. It's about understanding that the changes you're making are lifelong and there is no arriving at done. And because of that, time is really irrelevant. It's about balancing how much information you consume and how much you apply. And it's about practicing consistency, not perfection, but consistency. All right? And if you want help with this, let's go. When you coach with me, we will dive in and I'll help you focus on what really matters as you build a lifestyle of habits that you can sustain for the long haul. Things like consistency and self-compassion. Check out my website, head to www.carriehellenmd.com/contact, send me a message, and let's get started. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you're looking for your next great read, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehellenmd.com/books and download my list of most favorite reads. I've got 2 collections waiting for you. One is all about work-life balance. The other is a collection of books that have changed my life. I've referenced many of these books in the podcast, and now you can access those titles all in one place. Again, that's carriehellenmd.com/books. Check it out and find your next great read. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehellenmd.com.